in this culture, we tend to be a more head-oriented culture. But the heart is actually a much larger. He warned me about that. He said, "You're not one of these people that keeps touching your chest all the time." I said, "No, I'm not touching your chest at all." The heart is actually a much bigger electromagnetic center of the body. There's so much power here in the heart, and the power is to love. To have this vibration of love. We are tremendously powerful, loving beings. And emotionally, when we talk about visualizing, we talk about affirming, it's one thing to say it, but when we feel it, we know it, we feel it emotionally in our body, that's where the most meat is, the most power, that emotional center. And this is a tremendous gift that we have as human beings, this capacity to love and this capacity to line up with the fundamental vibration of Source. I wanted to share a few words from Joseph Campbell. So he said, God is a word. God is a concept, but its reference is to something that is beyond all concepts. God is transcendent, finally, of anything like a name. As the Hindus say, beyond names and forms. No tongue has soiled it. No word has reached it. Circumference nowhere and center everywhere. And this is really what I wanted to come to today, is that a lot of us here have had experiences of grace or connection, an experience of the holy. And whatever was present in that moment is right here now. And actually, every single moment of this life, we are always in the presence of the holy. We're always in the presence of the sacred. As much as we make that shift inside from our thoughts and our concerns to the expanse and the grace and the support that's here. I wanted to share one other story from my life. When I was about 19, I was living in Santa Cruz and I took a job working for an environmental organization. And you got paid on commission. And you went around from door to door. It was good work. It was related to Ralph Nader's work. And they were doing a lot of wonderful things. But basically, you'd go and knock on people's door and you had your wrap, you'd give them, and you'd try to get them to donate. So by the third day, I still hadn't hit my quota, so I wasn't getting paid. And as you can imagine, I was frustrated. Also, it's a little discouraging, knocking on people's door after door and having people say they don't want to talk to you, or going through your whole wrap and not having any support there. So I think I had raised to like $80, and I needed $100 to get the quota, so then I would get some payment. And so I went and talked to the guy who was the manager. And I said, yeah, I can't do this. I give up. It's not working. And he said, well, let's try it. Show me what you do. So we went and we sat down together. He said, well, give me your rap. Give me your talk. So I went through, hi, my name's blah, blah, blah. And we listened for a few minutes. And he nodded and he said, sounds good. And he said, well, who do I make the check out to? And so I said, CalPERG or whatever. And so we pulled the check out, pulled his checkbook out and started writing it. And he wrote the check, and he wrote it for the amount to take me over my quota so I get paid. And maybe they had some discretionary money to do that. I don't know. But in that moment, all I could see was that he was giving me this money right out of his pocket. Just this act of kindness. And it was all I could do to just not start weeping. And I was 19. I did not cry when I was 19. I was not interested in any open heart stuff, that's for sure. Whatever that was. And it took me a while to kind of, I had to put the walls back up as fast as I could. I was just like in this swirl of emotion, like couldn't even talk for a second. But that's the power of kindness. To pierce through all the hardness and all the tension, all the traumas of his life. Just a simple act of kindness does so much. Whether it's, sometimes it's a bigger gesture, sometimes it's a small gesture. And I think we've all had them. There's probably, if we had time to go through the room and hear the things that have happened, like one little thing. And yeah, there are a few things I know in my life that stand out like that, where it didn't seem like that big a deal, but it brought tears to my eyes. So I know that something good is happening. If that happens, I don't have a problem. I feel like anytime something wants to flow out, it's washing away the old, washing away something that's not necessary. A friend of mine said there's a saying in the Native American tradition that power should not be given to men who don't cry. And women that don't cry too. There's one more story I saw recently about kindness that I thought was really beautiful. And actually I saw it on Facebook, so some of you may have seen this too. It's circulated a bit. There was a woman who was caught stealing somewhere down south, and she had a child with her, and she was basically stealing food from the supermarket. And so the police came, and the police officer showed up, and took her in, she was arresting her, writing her a ticket. And then the police officer just kind of changed mid-course and ended up going in and buying the lady $100 worth of groceries. So there's so many good things happening in the world. And kindness matters. It's not a small thing. It's a really big thing. And it has the power to open the heart. And the more the heart softens and opens, the more we come back to what's real. Come out of the mind, come out of the fears, come out of the busyness. I saw a quote on the bottom of an email a few years ago, and I never forgot it. Sometimes I think we hear something, and I think anytime we hear truth, it has power. Like if some people are they're really honest people, and their words have power. They're honest. They're not false. They're really resonating with what they believe. There's a lot of power in that. And even more so when someone's speaking something that's cosmically true. If it's actually a fundamental universal truth, when someone's speaking those words, they have power. And as much as they're really living those words, then they have even more power. Someone, a master, they're actually living, walking their talk. But anyway, this quote always stayed with me. Be kinder than necessary. Everyone is fighting some kind of battle. And, I just couldn't help but think, when I was growing up, I would hear slogans about our country like, the business of America is business, or competition breeds excellence. But what if that was the slogan one of the fundamental principles of our country? Be kinder than necessary. The Creator is so kind to us. We've been given everything. We have these amazing bodies, clean air, fresh water, and everything we need to survive. And so it's only right that we should be kind and give to others. So I wanted to also talk a little bit about some mystics. I personally, the mystics are some of my favorites, just because to me they show us what's possible as human beings. I was raised in the Bay Area for the most part, and watched a lot of Happy Days reruns and ate a lot of Lucky Charms. And wasn't connected to some kind of timeless wisdom. My mom was actually quite cosmic. She would read me books like Jonathan Livingston Seagull or Illusions. I've heard those books. I loved those, just hearing those stories. But there was no connection with real life. It seemed like, wow, that's some fantasy thing. But then to grow up and really start studying about people, the mystics that have lived in all times and places, this is reality. And that's what's possible for us. So one of the mystics that's my personal favorite is Peace Pilgrim. Anybody here heard of Peace Pilgrim? So for anybody who hasn't heard of her, she's a woman, she's an American woman. In 1953, she started her first pilgrimage, and she walked across the country with a message for peace. And her message was, overcome evil with good, falseness with truth, and hatred with love. And so she walked across the country just sharing this message, which is beautiful. But the way she did it is quite unique. She said, I will walk until I'm given shelter, and I will fast until I'm given food. And she carried, I think she had a toothbrush in her pocket here, and she had a comb. That was it. She walked. It said Peace Pilgrim on the front. And so she made her pilgrimage across the country, and she never stopped. It went so well, and she felt like that was what she was supposed to do for life. She kept walking, I think about 20 times across the country. She walked up into Canada, walked down into Mexico. And so even that's great, but that's still not what I think is amazing about her. She said, my hair had already turned silver when I started my pilgrimage. I haven't had a cold or a headache or even a bad mood since. And she left her body in 1983. It's what she called the glorious transition to the next phase. She said, I live in a constant state of connection with the source of all that is. And when I read that, I mean, what could be a more reasonable goal for a human life? To have that place of connection. And that we all do have that. That's a potential for us. That is the potential of the human birth. That we can align with the source. The final thing before I wrap up is a line I heard from a children's song, and maybe you've heard this song. Love is something when you give it away, you end up having more. Somebody heard this song?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. So, again, that's just to hear something that just rings true with cosmic truth. And how amazing is that? What an amazingly abundant universe we live in. The most fundamental vibration under the sustaining principle of all the universe, when we give that away, we have more of it. I just think that's amazing. If I have a piece of chocolate cake and I give it to Ari, 2 pieces of chocolate cake don't usually appear in front of me. I'm not saying it's not possible and that our seeds, planting good seeds has a good effect, but if I have a nice car in the driveway, I say, hey neighbor, I want you to have this car. I don't walk back to the house and just see 3 cars in the driveway typically. But this energetic principle is instant, and it's something we can all check out for ourselves and recognize. So yeah, just to wrap up, what I'd like to leave with today, that we actually do truly, we come from love and we return to love. And there is a vibration of love underneath all of creation. As much as we come into a space of love, or even just let go of all the noise, and there's a vibration that we don't even need to